Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the NHCFAE Career Series Podcast. My name is Karen Perez, your National Vice President and host for today's session. Today, we're highlighting a behind-the-scenes role that plays a critical part in aviation safety and operations. So joining us today is Susie Diaz, a drafting coordinator with FAA Technical Operations. Susie, thank you for being here today with us. Can you start by telling us what your role is and how it supports the National Airspace System?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, a lot of people don't know exactly what drafting coordinator is. Like when I tell people, they're like, what is drafting coordinator? So the easy way to explain to everybody what is exactly a drafting coordinator is when you're doing construction from your house and you have to take those design drawings to the city so they can approve them. So I'm the lady that approves that approves those designs. So that's the simplest form I can tell people what is a drafting coordinator. But I do deal with AutoCAD. So AutoCAD, we use the program with our engineers. That program, it helps to design the drawings. So we design anything from the runways, the lighting, anything that has to do with aviation. They have to design it. Even a little simple antenna that the engineers go and remove or replace, they have to come to AutoCAD, let us know that we have to revise it or put a new antenna, put a new line in the runway. So they have to come to me and I approve it. So, my job is very important. I know a lot. Every job is important, but that's why I tell people like we have a lot to do with the airways because we is every single thing where the airplanes go. That's like the antenna that where we replace, we add, or the lighting. Just couple months ago, I went out in the field with a couple engineers because they invited me. And I love going out in the field because I like to see exactly what I did in paper. So they tell me, like, do you want to go to look at a PAPI? And I'm like, what is a PAPI? But exactly, I already know, like, I did it. So a PAPI basically means I can tell you guys, if you guys go to the runway when you're inside the plane and you're taxiing and you see those letters, runway, and then you see some little lightings, that's a PAPI. So yeah, I'm like, oh wow, like I can see it. So and then you can see that I'm always excited about seeing something in the paper to turn into live. So that's my job.
No,
And
and
I've been uh-huh.
go ahead.
No, I said, and I've been doing this in December, I turned 26 years, but actually it's probably been around maybe 20 years that I've been doing this job.
Amazing. I know it must be so satisfying to go from an idea or a design in this case to something that's concrete, like a final product. So I'm sure you
Yeah.
feel a lot of satisfaction when you complete a project like that. So that's very exciting. What's something that might surprise people about drafting coordination or your role in the process?
The one of the things that do surprise people is the design part of it. I mean, they see a female, and then they come to me and say, what are you doing? And then they see that I open AutoCAD and I'm drawing lines. So they're like, you do that? Like, you
You
know how
think
to
this
do
is
that?
a man's job?
Right, right, yeah, yeah. Like I didn't know you know how to do that. A very big example, and I'm gonna put him in the spot. It's our president. It's our president, Oscar Torres. I remembered I was in a meeting and I opened one of the drawings that one of the engineers sent me, and he bypassed my computer and he's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "A drawing." And he's like, "You do that?" Like I didn't know. So yeah.
Amazing. What part of your role has the biggest impact on safety?
On safety, well, it's the design part and making sure that it's well approved as FAA standards, and we review them as quality check. And the engineers are trusting us that we're doing a quality check for them to take these designs to the contractors, because the contractors later on are going to see the plans in their hands, and they're simply going to put two and two together to construct the project. So that's very important. Like if I mess up like a line, a number, a dimension, it's going to come back to me, especially me because I'm the coordinator and we're going to get blamed. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like there's an enormous amount of pressure to do your job
Yeah.
correctly
Yeah. Yeah.
so that safety is the end result, as it always is within roles like ours. So, Susie, you've had a long and impactful career with the FAA. How is it that you got started? What drew you to technical operations?
I got started actually as a summer student, and I did summer, like the summer program for about maybe 3 years. But I was actually working with human resource. And then one day I just told one of the ladies, I said, next year I'm not going to come back because obviously I wanted to go back to school full time. And then she's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm going to go to school. And then she's like, how long? And I said, give me 2 years. So yeah, so 2 years went by, graduated. I actually, that's why I know AutoCAD, because I graduated as a fashion designer. And I was doing AutoCAD instead of lines, airplanes. I was designing clothes. So it was a big like, oh, I know that. So when I graduated, it was a surprise. I got a surprise phone call from a lady from HR, and it was right the next day. And then she's like, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Yeah." I thought I was in trouble. And then she's like, "Did you graduate?" I said, "Yesterday." And then she's like, "Are you ready to come back?" And I'm like, in my mind, I was ready to move on with my fashion design career. And then she's like, well, come back by Monday. And I'm like, and then she's like, but you're not going to be working with HR no more. They need somebody in engineering services. I didn't know what was engineering services at that moment. And I'm like, I was hesitant because I had just graduated. And I'm like, I talked to my father, and he's like, go, go. Like who doesn't call somebody and just say like, come by? I didn't need an interview. They just, so I went on Monday. I met up with one of my coworkers now, and they welcomed me, and engineering services, here I come.
I think something that you said is very interesting in that it points to how many of our skills are transferable between different industries. So you said you have a fashion design background, and I'm sure there are a lot of things that you transfer over. Just like a chef, you wouldn't think a chef and an engineer have anything to do with each other. But if you think about a chef deals with ingredients,
Mm-hmm.
engineer deals with what's the given, chef deals with recipes, an engineer deals with equations. So we're taking what's given, we're using something that's already predetermined, a recipe, an equation, and we're getting an outcome. And I think the same way for you, there's a lot of things that are transferable between designing and
Mm-hmm.
getting a final product as a fashion designer, a jacket, a dress, and the same thing for your role as a drafting coordinator, because you're working on all these safety critical designs and they impact how the overall system functions and how safely.
Mhm.
So I think that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It was like kind of like the aha moment when I didn't right away was the coordinator, obviously. I was assisting the drafting coordinator at that time. So one day I was kind of, curious, like always. I went inside our drafting room, and then I just went and I'm like, what are you guys doing? I say, can I see what are you guys doing, working on? Like, how do you guys actually do stuff? And one of the guys now is like, "Yeah, like, do you wanna sit down and see?" I'm like, "Yeah, I would love to." And then when he opened AutoCAD, I was like, "I know that." And he's like, "You do?" I said, "Yes, I just used it in school." Yeah, so that was an advantage for me. Yeah.
Definitely an aha moment for you, I guess.
Mhm.
Who would you say helped mentor you or guide you early on in your career?
There was a lot of people. There's a lot of people now. Some are retired. So some of the people that are obviously the engineers that I had met along the way, and then some of the managers too. My very first manager too. Like he saw something on me. But he didn't tell me, he didn't tell me because I remember he's like, no, like he kept on pushing me to do the drafting part. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. And then he's like, and I said, can I just help over there, like do the time and attendance? And he's like, well, if you want to, but we need you over here, and his name is Douglas. And then one day I remember I told him, I said, Doug, I don't want to be here anymore. And he's like, and I was in the what's it called, in that period of testing, your probation. I said, I don't think I want to be here anymore. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. you know, and he's like, no, Susie, look, I have something better for you. And then I'm like, like, it's like, why didn't you tell me this the first time? So Doug, my first manager, and actually one of the ladies, the one that called me from HR, obviously she saw something in me that she called me back, you know? And I actually went back to her. I remember a few years back, I said, can you give me any feedback? Like, what is it that I need to improve? And she's like, yes. So yeah, she gave me a lot of feedback. And those are the mentors that I needed, like the honest feedback. And if you see something in me, I always tell people, if you see something in me that I'm not seeing, please let me know. And obviously some of my coworkers still now, I remember right now she's a manager, so she's great. She's an engineer, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I'm very curious, so I always tell people, how do you do that? Like, what are you doing? So right now she's a manager, Lorraine, and I always go back to her, and I love it that she always has an open door policy. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, so the engineers that are my mentors. I remember they even saw, because I went back to school and they saw me struggling with math. They're like, Susie, like, you know where you work? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, you pick anybody from us and we'll help you. We'll
Mm.
help you. We'll help you with math. And that was like, okay, yeah, duh. Why didn't you think about that? Yeah.
And you said something really, really pointed there where you question, what did they see in me? They obviously saw something. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we're not aware of our own potential until somebody else sees it. And we're not aware because in our immediate environment, in our family, there's no one role playing anything outside of what we've done over the generations. So I know personally, I didn't know anyone who had a career growing up. So no one modeled that. So because there's no one there to model those kind of things for us, sometimes we don't even know what our true potential is. So I love that they saw that in you and they allowed that to flourish. So that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Even now, I mean, now I go and some of the managers are like, "Do you want to help over here?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Come on, like I know you can do it." And then they're like, "I knew you could have done it." And I'm like, "Well, why didn't you think about it?" Like right now, sometimes I'm the backup of the past. And they're like, Susie, they cannot, the guy cannot come. Do you want to make a speech for the past? The past union. And I said, no. I always go like, no. They're like, you can do it. You can make the speech. And I'm like, okay. And recently, maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, we had our engineering services picnic, and one of the past members couldn't make it. So he's like, Susie, do you want to do it? And I'm like, no. So I mean, that's a perfect example that they know I could do it. Yeah.
And I love that they see it for you.
Hmm.
Now, from what I understand, drafting coordination requires precision, organization, accountability. Can you walk us through a drafting request from beginning to end?
Yeah, it's a lot of steps. And I have this weekly meetings with all the managers to walk them through all the steps. Especially we get a lot of new engineers, so I have to do this. So one of the steps is obviously getting them into training, AutoCAD training. So we need all the engineers to get AutoCAD training. And then let's say they already passed that, and there's a test. It's pretty hard. I took it myself. And then so there's this other program that we use. It's called Drafting Tracker. It's where you electronically submit a request. And so the engineer submits a request, It does need funding, work release funding. So I always tell them, I give them a heads up, like make sure you have your work release number, make sure it has funding, and make sure it's approved by their manager. And some of them don't know what it is. So I give them a list, and I mean, obviously I do my best to help them out. And then so they submit this request through Draft and Tracker. And then they also tell me where are the drawings, where I can find their drawings. We share a shared drive, and they need AutoCAD drawing. They need to tell me what they want me to do with their drawings. I know most of the time what they want me to do, but sometimes I don't want to read mine because I need them to tell me, like it's kind of like a teacher and the student, because they sometimes they leave their comment blank, and I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to do? Like look at your drawing, and also so I review all these requests once I get it. And then I go like back and forth. As a coordinator, I review it, do back and forth, make sure the work release number that they gave me is kind of like a credit card number. It does have funds. Sometimes they give me the wrong one. So I have to go back and forth, conversation with the engineer, manager to make sure they have the right number. So I review this request, make sure they have drawing numbers. I also give them drawing numbers. I deal with all the 50 states. So I give them drawing numbers to match the location, facility, and if they're doing construction, as-built, and mechanical, civil, so all that stuff. So I make sure they have the right. So after I approve everything, I go ahead and I delegate that work to my drafters. So I have contracting drafters that I delegate the work to. So the drafters actually are the ones doing the AutoCAD design. I do it because I'm the coordinator and I need to know what the draftings are doing, because at the end, when quality check comes back, I have to do the quality check from the drafters. So it's kind of like a little cycle. Yeah. And then after I do the final quality check, I send it back to the engineer as their review. And there we go again. And sometimes the drafters do have more questions that I kind of didn't tell them. But so we just communicate as a circle and say, do you have this? Oh, Susie, you forgot that. Oh, the engineer forgot this. And I'm like, okay. So communication with the design is very important, because sometimes there's one person sometimes that does get blamed. Like, you didn't give me that information, and now you're blaming me that I forgot to put that in your design. So that's why it's very important too that I take their red lines. We call them red lines, like the design that they mark up, and I'm like, no, this is what you gave me. Yeah, like proof. And so it's a circle, and then they review it. Sometimes they come back to like, there's a small little thing that can you correct it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll correct it. And at the end of it, we do prepare those drawings for final signatures from the project engineer and their manager, and then they send it off to the contracting so they can start the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say are the biggest challenges that come with coordinating across these different regions and these different contractors?
One of the biggest challenges that on top of my head right now is the communication through
Mhm.
the contractors. I don't deal with the contractors that they had hired. So sometimes the contractors don't give them enough information that the FAA needs, because it's like an outside contractor that doesn't know what FAA standards are. So it's kind of like the city, the state city is like, here it is. Like, no, we don't need that. Like, we work for the FAA, so this is what we need. And sometimes it's a little pushback because the contractor does not want to give us their designs. So it's like, no, like we're paying money for the contract, so you need to give us all the designs. So it's a little bit of a pushback in the communication. And then, so that's one of the biggest challenges. And another big challenge, obviously, is the funding. Yeah, sometimes they don't have enough funding for the project. They anticipated less money for it, and then I go over here and say, you know what, I need a little bit more money to finish your project, and it takes time to put more funding in their work release number and approve it. So sometimes it can take up to like 3 months,
Wow.
and the job is on hold.
Wow,
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds like government.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sometimes it takes up to a year. I have a project that's
Wow,
took up to a year that I'm like, I just, friendly reminders, like friendly reminder, I still have your project on hold. Just wanted to make sure, like, let me know if you have any updates. Yeah.
very interesting. So I understand that your role requires, like you said, this constant collaboration between the engineers, the managers, and the contractors. So what leadership skills have been most important in your success in this role?
Communication and patience.
And
And patience. I mean, yeah, you need to have a lot of patience. Before, I mean, like I said, I've been here for what, 26, 27 years. Now I have learned to kind of be a little bit more patient with myself and with the engineers, and sometimes even like learn if to fight your battles. And so because I used to just fight them. I don't want to say like fight, like physical fight now. It's not that. It's kind of like I used to go back and forth with them, like that line doesn't match. Or that dimension that you gave me. And they were like, well, just do it. And I'm like, no, like I was very strict, on the FAA orders. Now it's like, you know what? You're the engineer. At the end, it's gonna come back to you. So yeah. So it's just by picking your battles, but in a nice way. And patience with the engineers, with yourself, and that communication. Sometimes like I have to learn to like courtesy, like, hey, like a reminder, like I have it here. I mean, there's engineers that are out in the field for like a year and then they forget. They're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that job. Yeah.
yeah, and communication. I had a manager that always told me all communication fails. And what he meant by that was no matter how hard you try to communicate succinctly or like perfectly, depending on the other person's experience, environment, perception, all these different factors would influence how they receive the message. And they might receive it in a way that you didn't mean to send it in the first place. So communication is definitely a dance between one party and the other. So that's definitely a crucial skill in the professional realm.
Yeah, yeah. So now I learned, now we have weekly meetings, weekly updates. Like I mentioned, we have a few new engineers come and go. So I have to take the time to meet with the managers, say, hey, whenever you have a staff meeting, invite me so I can update your group. So they're
Mhm.
like, yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, this coming Tuesday, I do have one of my reviews with the engineers. So it helps them. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't like. Oh, did you change that?" I mean, nothing has changed. It's just we need to. Sometimes we do forget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So in addition to your FAA role, you previously served as the Director of Public Affairs for the Hispanic Coalition. How did that experience shape you professionally and personally?
Like, I think it helped me to grow on my personal level. It helped me to grow on the communication part with other people, learning to know that everybody is works differently. Everybody takes things differently. I mean, I always joke around saying like I'm the perfect one. And I said if everybody can just be perfect like me, but I have learned that everybody, I mean, works perfect on their own level, and also accepting who everybody is. So yeah, I know that I have grown on that. I mean, it has helped me learning, meeting people everywhere, So at the end of it, I did maybe a few, I want to say like maybe 5, 6 years ago. I mean, I did direct of public affairs for a long time. So maybe like 5 years ago, I kind of went like, I was in this stage of my position saying like, I don't know what I'm doing in the FA. Like, I'm bored. Am I bored? Do I need a challenge? What do I need? So I took a step back and I kind of went like, well, I am part of the coalition. Like, why am I not taking advantage of all the people that I have met? So I took a step back and I started contacting a few people saying, hey, like, do you remember me? Like, can you help me? So I started contacting a few people. I mean, I can name one in top of my head. Fabiola Garcia. I contacted her, I remember, and I said, hey, like, can you give me feedback? So those are little tiny steps that I took back so I can grow myself in my career and what else I needed to know. Like, if I wanted to stay in the FAA, what did I wanted to do after that? And so people I started contacting and say, can you give me feedback? And like, what do you think I need to know or do in order for me to be a little bit more advanced? So it helped me. I contacted at least 3 people, obviously getting a mentorship and their feedback and connecting with them. It helped a lot.
That's definitely a very mature approach to take to your career, being able to ask and receive for
Yeah.
for professional feedback. So going back to your role as director of public affairs, what NHCFA projects are you most proud of?
Well, I was a baby when I first started. I mean, I still have it. Is building the first magazine that I did. Yeah, and I still have it framed in the picture frame, and I put it inside the frame, and I have it in my office. So it's kind of like, I mean, you're probably like, wow, like I built this. Kind of like the design that I do,
Yeah,
like I built this, like, and it's live in the paper. So yeah, I remember even feeling like, wow, like how did I do this? Yeah.
that's
And
amazing.
again, going back to the design part. I mean, I guess that's part of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also a way to connect with people by
Oh yeah,
sharing
definitely.
stories and bringing people together to share their stories. So
Hmm.
I think you should definitely be proud of that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I am. I am. And I mean, obviously it's the connection with everybody.
Very good. So why do you think outreach and STEM engagement is important to you?
One of the reasons is for them to know what I was seeing, where I was before. And I'm like, no, this is I need to tell them my story so they can not feel like they're alone.
Hmm.
So let's say when we go out to a high school or whatever, you see kids, they don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, for example, I have my nephew that is about to graduate, and I asked him, what do you want to do? He's like, I don't know. So it's my time to give them my story and kind of inspire them. Like, oh, and I live 5 minutes away from the airport, and say, do you know that I kind of like relate to that in my career? And some of the kids go like, "What? Oh, what? I can do that?" And I mean, obviously, in our career, aviation, it has a lot. It has a lot. There's doctors, lawyers, attorneys, and they're like, "I could be a lawyer," and I'm like, "Yeah, you can be a lawyer. You don't have to be engineer. You don't have to be all that. You could be a lawyer for working for aviation. You can be a doctor." Yeah. So it's just inspiring them and sharing your story so they won't feel that they're alone.
Very good. And I think there's so much power in that we have the ability to influence, the ability to share our experience and allow them, the generation coming up, to see themselves in us. 'Cause I know
Mhm,
that that's made a tremendous difference in my professional career. And
mhm.
being able to see someone who looks like me, talks like me, has similar backgrounds like me, that's so powerful.
Right,
So,
right.
Susie, before
And
we
I was and I wanted to add something, and even the language. I mean, sometimes, they see they're like, "Oh, you talk Spanish?"
yeah,
I remember when I first started, I was 19 years old when I first started. And one of the ladies was like, I started talking to her in Spanish. She's like, "You talk Spanish?" Yeah. So it's like, oh wow, like I can relate with you.
you're
Yeah.
relatable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Susie, before we close, do you have any parting thoughts to those listening?
Just keep on swimming and asking questions. I mean, asking questions. If you don't know, ask questions, dig in, find out what is your best knowledge of moving forward. I've been there. Sometimes I'm there too in my comfort level. Sometimes I have to be like, okay, like I need something else. So what is that something else that is gonna inspire you? Make a note, do a list of the things that you love and just do them. Yeah.
Beautiful, Susie. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and highlighting the critical work that happens behind the scenes and for your continued service to aviation and the community.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. For our listeners, if our conversation today inspired you, please consider joining the National Hispanic Coalition for Aviation Excellence. Visit www.nacfa.org to learn more. We always appreciate you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode of the NHCFAE Career Series Podcast. Nos vemos.
Adios.